So you asked me what is the point of this? The point of this is I don't believe that the Quran came down in 7 versions. It doesn't make sense. Uh, if anything, it's going to confuse people, not going to make things easier. I mean, if the rationale, again, remember when I say this, no one actually knows what the word harf means, what it actually means. Those who say it means dialects, and for dialect they actually use the word lugha, but lugha in classical Arabic means dialect. It doesn't mean language like in contemporary Arabic. Uh, uh, that uh, that variation in dialect cannot justify like a variation between ba and noon, for example. You know what I mean? Like things that comply with the rasm, but are different letters, slightly different word. So that's not variation in the dialect, and so forth. Every time you test the theory to something that people suppose it doesn't. So nobody really understands what. So the bottom line of this whole thing, I think, we, although people have created this theory of 7 ahrufs, whatever the word ahruf means, and it is supported by some hadiths, even though it's not mentioned in the Quran whatsoever. I think maybe they have the reasons at some time, but I think overall it's harmful to the Quran. And I personally think it's harmful to the Quran. I think we are creating more.
So do you think like the Qur'an of Hafs is the correct one, or?
No. I think the Quran came down one. Now, yes. Now, along the way, people have, for any reason, picked up some different variations. And again, those different variations have no consequence in the meaning, for all practical reasons. But to say that actually God sent it in 7 different ways, why? I mean,
can we trace to see when some of these like the first time we've heard of a different, dialect or lugha or
yeah, that's when Osman. That's when Osman did his 5 Qur'ans, 5 Masahif, because there was beginning some variations.
So when Uthman did it, there was 5.
When Osman did it, he basically, all the Sahaba agreed about what is the standard version, and they neglected all the variations that did not comply with the rasm. But they accepted variations within the rasm.
So, but isn't that indication enough then that that is the correct thing? I mean, they would know, right? They were there when it was coming down.
And actually that's what they did. They wanted to write down in the dialect, or in the language they call it, of Quraysh. The problem is no one understands what the word ahruf means. Is ahruf, like, was it 7, and then at the time of Osman ibn Affan it became 1 instead of 7, and then those qira'at are variations within that 1 for Quraysh? Is that what this means?
I'm sorry, maybe I'm missing something, but you just said that during Uthman's time they had 5. So
No. During Osman, he copied 5 copies of 1 version of the Quran that became standard. And those 5 copies, he sent them to the provinces. Okay. And from those copies became the copies of the Masahif of those provinces. Again, that had very minor differences between them. What I'm trying to say is, it's really not a very important point. Doesn't change anything we talk about as far as the book is concerned. But I've always thought it was an ambiguous issue, and I'm trying to explain it. And I think this whole theory of 7 ahruf to begin with is hurtful to the Quran, not beneficial. What I'm saying is, it's a human construct. I don't believe that the Quran actually came down as 7 versions, or 7 different.
Okay, so this beckons like the bigger question,
yeah.
Right? Like that Allah will preserve His religion, right?
Yeah.
So.
And it's preserved.
how can you say that when there's
You have to be literally an obsessive compulsive person to say that it's not preserved. Because, look, don't take my word for it. Take any two different qira'at. Now, we can't take two different ahrufs. Because, again, it's a theory that is ambiguous, and we don't even know what the word ahruf means. Like, we don't have the other ahruf. You know what I mean? At best, the explanation for the theory goes something like this: there was 7 ahruf before Osman, and there's 1 harf after Osman. At best, and even that, I mean, don't think that's like a really solid argument. That, you know, but it's an argument. But again, take any variation within the I mean, most variations are variation in pronunciation, like variation how you pronounce the meme or how you pronounce the letters. You know, minor variations in the words, zero change in the meaning of any consequence, zero. So to actually come and say that this is not preserved, you gotta be.
Then why is it hurtful then?
It's why is it hurtful? Maybe I'm being, maybe it's not as hurtful as I think. But to me, the concept that Allah will send down 7 versions of the Quran, and there is absolutely no mention of it in the Quran, is, to me is weird. This is something you will have to 100% believe in from the hadith. And if you believe in those hadiths as 100%, then you have some grounding for the theory. But if you believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would send 7 versions of the Quran and not have a hint in the Quran about it, then it's, it's a non-Quranic Islamic concept. I just find it, it's weird. Why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send 7 different versions of the Quran? I mean, why?
Well, I mean, if there are different, dialects, and if it appeals to.
Okay, then let's talk about it. Okay, it appeals to different tribes. He would send 7 different versions of the Quran for a temporary benefit. I mean, eventually those tribes are going to be one nation, right? When Islam prevails, and the need for that convenience is temporary at best. And for people like the Arabs, it's not much of a inconvenience to say to talk some other tribes that, I mean, we are talking some minor changes. Minor. I mean, how much of an inconvenience is it to talk in a different dialect? So in any case, to me, it's just the concept that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send down 7 different versions of the Quran is not palatable. I mean, I think it's more hurtful. How is it more hurtful? I guess I don't have a very strong case, but here's the thing. We're introducing a concept that has absolutely 0 practical value. What is the value of the theory of 7 ahruf? In practice. 0. Right. There's no application whatsoever to it. So why are we even talking about it? You see what I mean?
I get it. I get what you're saying. I just don't think that.
Maybe I'm just too practical.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're going about it in a weird way, right? To you, there's no practical thing, reason to have it, and so therefore you question it.
No, I don't question it because there's no practical use to it. I question it because it's weird. Like, to literally send down 7 different versions of the Quran and not mention that in the Quran is weird. What I'm saying is there is no practice to it. Is we're introducing a concept that has 0 benefit and potential harm. If I can't prove that it's harmful, maybe you'll agree that it's potentially harmful. Like, Allah would send down 7 different versions of the Quran. But it has 0 value, 0 benefit. So why are we even allowing it in our thinking?
You can't say it has 0 benefit. Maybe you don't understand the benefit. Maybe I don't understand the benefit. It doesn't mean that benefits does not exist, right? So it's a bold statement that you're making when you're saying it has 0 benefits.
If it does exist, no one is talking about those benefits. If it does exist, Because again, because it's an ambiguous concept, it's not exactly the same as the 7 qira'at. The issue of the 7 ahruf of the Quran is not exactly the same thing. So now we have the 7 qira'at and we have the 10 qira'at, if you will. But we don't have any clear meaning of what those other 6 ahrufs are. So if there is a benefit, no one is talking about it.
Okay.
I mean, contemporary,
maybe,
of course.
Maybe I understand.
Yeah.
Maybe what you want to do then is try to trace back to what Uthman did, right? So he said he brought in one. He said that there was one, and then
Yeah, along with other Sahaba, of course, not alone.
right. So I think that is more the the thing that you would need to actually study and kind of follow, right? Like
Yes,
that,
but the
that
story
leads into something.
At least if you want to take the whole story as it is.
But it's just simply because if the Prophet ﷺ did say there are 7 ahruf, and then Uthman decided that we're only going to compile 1. I mean, Uthman would not go directly against the wish of the Prophet ﷺ. If there are 7, then he would do 7. You know what I mean?
To me, I mean, you can sort of tie up that loose end that way, and I think it's a reasonable way to tie it up the way you're saying it. But to me, it's like almost too big of a loose end that the Prophet would leave it that way. Like when Jibreel would come down and review the Quran with the Prophet ﷺ. I mean, he's reviewing it 7 times or 7 different dialects.
You don't know.
I don't know. Of course, I don't know. No, it's an assumption. It's an assumption. Today, to talk about this theory, there's no contemporary value to it, and at least to some people, it sounds weird. But again, it's a thought. You don't have to agree.
Yeah.
It's outside the paradigm issue.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do, very little to do with the paradigm issue. Then we become to the third afterthought that I had is the issue of again adalat Sahabi. You know, we talked about that. Nobody talks about. People talk about the integrity of the Sahaba, but they don't talk about the dabat, which is how.
And when you say Sahaba, you're talking about like the 10,000, like the tens of thousands of people
That's
that
the
have
problem.
been around. The Prophet,
That's the problem.
Not the Sahaba. Like usually when people say Sahaba, there's a group of like 20 or 30 names that usually come to.
And that's exactly what I want to talk about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. When we are talking about the premise of Adalat Sahaba epistemologically, i.e., to justify the epistemology of Mustalah 1.0, to justify the epistemology of Mustalah 1.0, you have to have that theory of Adalat Sahaba, and people don't realize that the definition